Are you ready to step into the unknown once again? Experience spine-chilling explorations of nature. Today, we're diving deep into the mysterious world of swamps. Any creature could be lurking in the shadows of these remote wetlands, and you'll never know what you might encounter this time. From nuclear bombs left over from the Cold War era to massive pythons lurking in muddy waters. 10th, the humanoid creatures. In the spring of 2012 in France's Greek Natural Reserve, tourists spotted two eerie figures in the swamp. These beings were pale and slender, as if frozen in time, and then vanished in an instant. By July 2016, they reappeared with 6 new companions, drawing attention once more. It turns out these mysterious humanoid figures were created by the famous French sculptor Phia Giacomo to commemorate the complex relationship between humans and nature. These humanoid figures are made with a steel structure, covered in mud and algae on the surface. Once the mud and algae dry, they take on a skin-like appearance, blending seamlessly into the natural landscape. Their colors and textures change over time as well. At first glance, this artwork gives off a strong sense of unease, but in reality, they're just hidden in the environment, observing humans. These sculptures symbolize the deep connection between humans and nature, reminding us to respect and protect the environment. In an uninhabited swamp, these sculptures seem like guardians of nature, quietly watching over the surroundings, though this way of displaying them is really scary. The unexpected approach, combined with media coverage, seems to have a magical effect in awakening people's desire to protect nature. 9th, the abandoned nuclear bomb. During the Cold War, the U.S. and Soviet superpowers frantically produced nuclear warheads to maintain their edge. At the peak, each had over 14,000. With such vast numbers, transportation became more frequent. However, in 1961, a B-52 bomber had its wing damaged in a storm, forcing the pilots to eject with its two 2.4 megaton nuclear bombs. One was safely dropped by parachute to the ground, but the other, due to a parachute failure, crashed into the swamp and went missing. This is known as the Goldsboro incident. Recently, the military rediscovered this nuclear bomb. It took workers about a week of digging to recover most of it. Studies showed that out of the 7 steps to detonate the bomb, 6 had already been activated. You have to know that if this bomb accidentally exploded, it would equal the destructive power of 250 Hiroshima atomic bombs. Nuclear radiation. Nuclear radiation would cover a large area of the U.S. East Coast, reaching as far as Washington, D.C. and New York City. If the bomb were removed from the swamp, it might still be active. To be safe, it's better not to move it. In other words, this swamp not only has a nuclear bomb, but it's still there. 8th doll horror. In October 2014, a netizen briefly spotted what looked like porcelain dolls while passing by a swamp near the highway. But he didn't pay much attention at the time. A few days later, he saw in the news that locals were panicking over these dolls. The police also launched an investigation. But as the investigation unfolded, people started feeling that these dolls were seriously off. A total of 21 dolls were found in the swamp, and they were all eerily strung up on a bamboo pole. Most of the dolls were made of porcelain, and their faces were coated with what looked like white spray paint. The police thought it might just be a prank, but the discovery was still spine-chilling. There were already plenty of strange and bizarre rumors about this swamp, which already had plenty of strange and bizarre rumors. It's said that ghosts wander in this misty area, and locals report hearing huge roaring sounds from deep in the swamp. However, the owner of these dolls never showed up. It's been filed as one of the area's most mysterious unsolved mysteries. So the police filed the case as one of the area's most mysterious unsolved mysteries. However, swamps in Alabama aren't the only places with terrifying doll problems. In Australia, there's a town called Lucinda where the 406 locals have long been terrified of a doll on a swing by the swamp. Many residents believe this doll is a sign of bad luck, and even just greeting it brings misfortune. No one knows how the doll got there, and most people don't want to investigate out of fear. 7th, the king of the swamp. Monster enthusiasts have always been fascinated by supernatural swamp creatures living in the mud, but we all know the undisputed champion is the crocodile. Crocodiles, with their tough armor, sharp teeth, and incredible bite force, are fierce and often called the king of the swamp. So, finding crocodiles in swamps isn't surprising, but the one we're introducing today is the largest short-snouted crocodile ever found by humans. The undisputed giant in the crocodile world. In August 2014, Hunter Stokes went on an adventure with his family to Washington's Wetland Park and unexpectedly encountered a monstrously huge crocodile. Faced with this terrifying swamp beast, Stokes, along with her husband and brother-in-law, took it down with ease. Experts later measured it and found that this so-called king of the swamp was over 5.8 meters long and weighed more than 1,000 pounds. It accidentally broke the record for the largest crocodile ever caught by humans. Based on analysis of the crocodile's leg bones, this giant was an astonishing 127 years old. Maybe that's the world of the strong, just a simple weekend adventure, and you break a world record. Sixth, the hidden battlefield. In Germany's Tollens Valley, people discovered a human arm sticking out of the swamp. Soon after, they found a large number of human remains there, totaling about 100 bodies. Most belonged to young people. 8 skeletons had fractures, possibly from heavy blows or arrows, which were fatal. Archaeologists analyzed the chemical composition of the victims' teeth to determine where they came from. The results showed that most of those who died there weren't locals. Archaeologists believe this is likely a Bronze Age battlefield site, dating back about 200 years. It's in Europe. The Tollens Valley battle from that time is one of the most notable examples in European Bronze Age warrior culture. Around 1200 B.C., 2 groups clashed at a narrow river crossing in northern Germany leading to the Baltic Sea. After a battle that might have involved hundreds, the remains were likely left there to decompose naturally. Most researchers had thought this was a peaceful war, the Bronze Age people's perspective. But this discovery changed historians' perspective on Bronze Age people in Europe. Those involved were fierce warriors, and the scale of the war was unprecedented in the region. Fifth, the giant python. In October 2020, snake hunters Wayne and Kevin set out for a long day of catching Burmese pythons in Florida's wetlands. And with no natural predators, these pythons, due to illegal releases and no natural predators, have wiped out many local animals in recent years. So catchers know they'll easily earn up to $150 for grabbing one. At the time, Wayne and Kevin were hunting on a canal about 56 kilometers from the area. Just before midnight, they spotted a very long female snake slithering in the swamp. It was so big that when they chased it through the water, Wayne had never seen a snake this big. So when they chased it through the water, his hands couldn't stop shaking. To avoid waking the snake, they tried not to splash too much. Kevin carefully grabbed its tail, while Wayne tried to control the head. The giant python immediately started writhing and struggling, and they used all their strength to keep it from escaping. If it wrapped around one of them, the consequences would be disastrous. When they successfully pulled the slippery beast out of the canal, Wayne and Kevin discovered the snake weighed an astonishing 47 kilograms and was over 6 meters long. It broke the record for the longest Burmese python caught in the area. But the scariest fact is that this record-breaking python was just one of 5,000 Burmese pythons removed from that swamp. So, next time you're passing through Florida's swamps and suddenly feel something large and scaly brush against your feet, remember to stay calm. Fourth, the swamp ghost. This swamp ghost isn't a real ghost, but it's just as awe-inspiring. The swamp ghost is the code name for a Boeing heavy bomber. In 1942, it was hit 121 times while evading Japanese pursuit, causing the fuel tank to rupture and the engine to sustain severe damage, ultimately losing power. Finally, it made an emergency landing in a swamp in Papua New Guinea. The U.S. military, hearing it was hit 121 times, recorded it as crashed in the files and never followed up. Unexpectedly, 30 years later, Australian soldiers on an exercise in the area discovered the plane. They were amazed at the plane's good condition. When these Australian soldiers inspected the plane, they were amazed at its good condition. According to those involved, they found a thermos and an ashtray inside the cabin. The thermos still contained coffee that had been brewed 30 years ago, and the cigarette butts in the ashtray were perfectly preserved, as if 30 years hadn't affected the plane at all. After the swamp ghost story was publicized, it caused a strong reaction in the U.S. The American public unanimously demanded the heroic aircraft be brought back, but Papua New Guinea refused to return it, leading to a 38-year standoff until 2010 when the government agreed to let the U.S. take it back. Now, the plane rests quietly in the Pacific Museum in the U.S. As the museum's centerpiece, the swamp ghost has been perfectly restored, with its 121 bullet holes clearly visible, telling the story of that history. Third, swamp butter. How about a bite of butter that's been preserved in the swamp for about 2,000 years? Thousands of years ago, ancient people didn't have refrigerators, so they had to find clever ways to preserve food. Burying food was one method. Burial protects food from sunlight, heat, and oxygen, slowing decomposition, and swamps were a great choice. Swamps are freshwater wetlands with a soft, spongy ground made mainly of partially decayed plant material called peat. The cool, low-oxygen, high-acid environment is perfect for preserving food. In ancient Nordic civilizations, people would store food, including butter, in swamps. This buried butter is called swamp butter, a food made from milk or dairy products that can be spread on bread. Interestingly, it's said that this butter is still edible today and even smells pretty good. I've heard it tastes a bit like cheese. Undeniably, swamps provided early agricultural communities with a way to preserve food. To many, swamp butter is an odd or bizarre event, but it might have been a common practice. Second, the Shigir idol. The Shigir idol is the oldest known wooden carving in the world, dating back before the Egyptian pyramids. As mentioned earlier, swamps are an excellent place to store objects. This wooden figure was preserved for 10,000 years in the Shigir peat swamp in Russia's Ural Mountains. The statue was first discovered in 1890 and originally stood 5.3 meters tall, about 2 stories high. Now, it's only 2.8 meters tall, with the rest lost during the Soviet era. The carving features totem-like designs, but the true meaning of the patterns hasn't been successfully deciphered. Radiocarbon dating of the Shigir idol shows it's much older than initially thought. Estimated at 9,750 years, scientists were stunned by the results, not only because of the artifact's excellent preservation, but also the sophisticated art style of that era. First, the unknown creature. This is a story shared by a netizen. It was an ordinary night, and the swamp water looked very calm as he and his friends paddled a small boat through it. However, when one of them reached his hand into the murky water, he suddenly screamed and pulled it back, saying something had grabbed him. Everyone was scared pale, but they guessed it might just be some kind of fish. Then, they saw some glowing objects in the water, looking like a creature with lights. A few seconds later, what looked like a blue hand emerged from the water. I slowed down the video and improved its clarity, so you can clearly see that the hand has 5 fingers, but they're all the same length. That means it couldn't be a human hand. Some speculate it might be some aquatic animal with light organs, since they saw lights in the water before the man felt something touch him. Others think it could be an eel, but this video has been circulating online for over a year, and no one still knows what it is. Some bold netizens guess it might be the mysterious lizard people living underground, accidentally discovered by humans while hunting in the swamp. I wonder what you watching think about this. Well, that's all for this episode. Out of these 10 astonishing discoveries in the swamps, which one impressed you the most? Feel free to tell us in the comments. If you like this video, don't forget to like, subscribe and share to support me to create more interesting content. Thank you for your support.